I have written extensively on the relation of ethics to theistic belief, and particularly the relation of what we call metaethics, the study of the epistemological and metaphysical grounding of ethics. Whether ethics is somehow can be seen properly as grounded somehow in God. And in doing that, I distinguish two realms. There are at least two realms of ethical theory to be accounted for. The more fundamental, in my opinion, and the larger, is the realm of value, of what is good and bad, and at bottom, are there things intrinsically good and intrinsically bad? I believe the answer to that question is yes. And can facts of that sort be seen as grounded in God? And my answer to that is yes. I favor a theology in which, in accordance with the views of Philo the Jew in Alexandria in the time of Christ, St. Augustine, most medieval philosophers, and a number of early modern philosophers, God has the role in ethics that Plato assigned in his Republic to the form of the good, that God is the standard of goodness. In some sense, God is the good itself, and for a thing to be good, in particular, for a thing to be intrinsically excellent, is for it to resemble God, imperfectly, of course, but resemble God in relevant respects. Now, that, I think, doesn't have obvious relations one way or another to Kantian ideas about autonomy, because, frankly, Kantian ideas about autonomy are conceived primarily in relation to moral obligation, which is the other aspect of ethical theory that I try to see as grounded in God. And there I embrace what I call a modified form of divine command theory, according to which what gives a moral rule, shall we say, a moral principle, the force of an obligation is God's commanding it. And at the most obvious level, that is not compatible with Kant's view. It's something that Kant would deny, although the text of Kant on this, as on other points, is not simple to interpret, but I think I'm clearly not being Kantian. I'm certainly not trying to be Kantian on that point. As to the epistemology of it, and in a way, I think, and the question, how is it that we come to recognize something as obligatory, or for that matter, as good, is a question in the epistemology of ethics, and it's one with which Kant is very much concerned. And I think that putting it in terms of pure practical reason, or in terms of a single pattern of reasoning that he gives us, as for example in developing his conception of the categorical imperative, is far too simple. It doesn't deal adequately with all the complexities of life. And my view is that both as regards the good and as regards obligation, epistemologically, we basically have to start with ethical practices as a social fact in which we participate. We begin participating in them very early as children. We learn how to participate. We learn in interaction with other people. In the process of learning the ethical part of a language, we learn how to form ethical judgments. We learn to form ethical judgments. We learn to rely on ourselves in doing so. I hope not not altogether without self-doubt. We need to be self-critical about it, but we learn to form ethical judgments. And in forming them, I think we learn to make ethical judgments, some of which we do not infer by a process of reasoning from other judgments, but we make them simply responding to situations as we perceive them, and in so doing, I believe we are responding, among other things, to our own emotions and desires and those that we perceive other people as having. And in doing that, we rely on a skill that we have learned in the course of learning to participate in the practice of ethical reasoning and ethical discourse. That's a very different epistemology of ethics from Kant's, and a more social one.